We've got Oscar winner Halle Berry, Sharon Stone, some steamy basketball action, people surfing, and a sweet S&M getup. It's Catwoman, but is it watchable? Thank you, audience sound effect, that I'm really struggling to come up with new ways to refer to, and welcome everybody to Is It Watchable? I'm your host, Paul. Remember way back in 2004 when out of all the great DC comic superheroes, the character that we most wanted to see have a standalone film was Catwoman? No? Me neither. Ah, Catwoman. Look, there's no dancing around this to be politically correct. She's as sexy as all get out. Many of us first realized that from the 1960s Batman television show. Whether it was Julie Newmar or Eartha Kitt, any Catwoman episode was sure to excite our young minds, even if we didn't know why. The outfit. It was the outfit. But actually, it was much more than that, because Catwoman's sex appeal ran much deeper than that skin-tight layer of spandex. She was a bad girl, but not too bad. She could be good at times, but never too good. Just like that boyfriend or girlfriend that you knew you shouldn't take back because they were bad news, but you kept doing so anyway, like 15 different times. That's Catwoman. And of course, like many of the villains of Batman's rogues gallery, she's iconic. Beyond the television and comic book pages, we've seen her slink across the big screen by Michelle Pfeiffer, Anne Hathaway, and of course, Halle Berry. The difference is that in 2004's Catwoman, Halle Berry doesn't play Catwoman so much as she plays a Catwoman, and the movie isn't so much good as it is bad. The opening credit sequence shows us how Catwomen have existed throughout history and hints at their mysterious origins dating back to ancient Egypt. We then meet Patience Phillips, Halle Berry looking all frumpy and clumsy to make her transformation later in the film more dramatic. She's an aspiring artist whose day job is designing ads for a line of beauty products. At work, we meet her best friend and comedy relief, Sally. Sally loves the company's yet-to-be-released anti-wrinkle cream, and in some lazy foreshadowing, complains of headaches immediately after applying it. Next, we meet the company's owner, George Hedare, who is introducing that new product called Beau-line to a room full of executives. More importantly, however, he announces that his wife, Laurel, will be replaced by a much younger model as the face of the company. Later, Patience is called to Hedare's office. As she sits nervously across his desk, he scolds her for using the wrong color red in one of her ads, and gives her until midnight the next day to fix it. Why would the head of what is obviously a pretty large cosmetics company have any involvement with a graphic designer and which Pantone red she was using in an ad? He wouldn't. That night, she is woken by a loud party in the building next door, and when she goes to the window to ask them to quiet down, she spots a mysterious cat in the alley looking up at her. The next day, that same cat appears outside her window, so she inexplicably climbs out on the ledge to rescue it. Why wouldn't she just call the fire department like a normal person? Because this is what the writers came up with as a cute way for the character to meet her love interest. I guess reaching for the same piece of produce was too cliche. Anyway, Patience finds herself in trouble, and when you know it, Prince Charming shows up right on cue. He's a cop and thinks Patience is trying to commit suicide. He attempts to talk her down, but when the AC unit she's standing on starts to give way, he rushes up to her apartment and somehow saves her. What? Let's watch that again in slow-mo. I call bullshit. Safely back at the apartment, Tom, the cop, sees the cat that Patience was trying to save and realizes that she wasn't trying to kill herself after all. Then, late for work, Patience sprints out of her apartment and conveniently drops her wallet because that's what the writers came up with to get the two back together. So now Tom has to return the wallet while the movie makes sure that we know how hot he's supposed to be. After some awkward rom-com style flirting, he asks her out for a cup of coffee and... okay, hold on a sec. For those of you with a keen eye, you probably noticed some similarities between this scene and scenes that took place the previous day. Everyone is wearing the exact same clothes 2 days in a row. It's like they weren't even trying to make a good movie. Later that evening, Patience wraps up the ad she was fixing and personally runs it over to her boss in another building because emails for chumps. When she gets there, the doors are locked, so she goes in the back way and ends up learning the truth about the company's new product.
I can't live with turning people into monsters.
Oh my gosh.
You've got to let me pull the plug. We can't let this go on the shelves. Who's there?
Laurel dispatches her goons to kill Patience, but she escapes through a waste disposal pipe, or so she thinks. So Patience dies and a bunch of cats show up to look at her dead body. The most CGI of them walks up on her lifeless corpse, breathes into her face, and magically brings her back to life. And anyone who's ever been too close to their cat yawning knows that would likely do the trick. Patience immediately starts acting like a cat, being scared of birds, swatting at creepy crawlies, leaping up on fire escapes, sleeping on shelves. When she wakes up the next day, the cat that's been stalking her is there, so she pulls a piece of paper from its collar that has the owner's address on it. Also, she misses her coffee date with Tom. She marches over to return the cat and meets a crazy cat lady who tosses her a ball of catnip. Next, Patience is at work getting chewed out by her boss for not turning in her updated ad design on time. She uncharacteristically gives him a piece of her mind and is promptly fired. Then she and Sally are walking down the street, and when Patience stops to admire a necklace in a window, Sally passes out. Then Sally's in the hospital. Next, Tom is talking to a classroom full of kids when Patience shows up with an apology cup of coffee. They head out to where the kids are playing basketball and we get this exchange.
One-on-one?
Who? Me and her?
Yeah, come on!
Wait, what? Okay, 1. When somebody asks you to play one-on-one, they are never asking about you and somebody else. They're asking about you against them. And 2, there's no way a 12-year-old boy would give up that basketball to watch some dude and his girlfriend play. So Tom and Patience decide to give that weird kid what he wants, and this happens. What the hell was that? I'm sorry, I know I'm breaking in more than usual here, but were they just thinking that we wouldn't be familiar with this obscure sport called basketball? I think that's how you pronounce it. Next, Laurel spots her husband with the new model and is none too happy about it. Then we get to see Patience doing more cat stuff. Later that night, the neighbors are having another party, but now Patience can use her newfound powers to quiet things down.
You hear that? It's called silence. That's all I ever wanted.
Feeling empowered, she returns to her apartment, gives herself a divorced soccer mom haircut, puts on a leather outfit, and steals a motorcycle. She goes back to the jewelry store to ogle that necklace again and notices that it's getting robbed. Then we get a pretty paint-by-numbers fight sequence with the exception of this move. I can't lie, that was pretty cool. Anyway, she stops the criminals only to wake up the next day with a bunch of jewelry spread out on her bed. She puts all the jewels in a paper bag, and later when the police are investigating the robbery, they find the bag along with a box of cupcakes. Later, Patience uses Google to research the history of cats by typing in the cat in history. Seriously. To find out even more, she goes back to the crazy cat lady who tells her that she died and was brought back to life as a Catwoman with special powers. So Patience decides to embrace her inner cat and tracks down one of the thugs that killed her. And like most cats, she's now an expert at wielding a whip. The guy tells her what we already know, that there's something horribly wrong with the beauty cream Beau-line. Then she heads over to the factory where it's made and finds one of the scientists, makeup creator guys, I don't know what they're called, but he's dead and a janitor sees her with the body. The next day, Patience visits Sally in the hospital and learns that Catwoman is wanted by the police for murder. At the police station, Tom notices that the writing on Patience's coffee cup and the bag found at the jewelry store are pretty much the same. Then he and Patience go to a carnival. The Ferris wheel goes crazy and Patience saves a kid from falling. That night, Catwoman goes to visit George Adair, who she thinks is responsible for the Beau-line cover-up. She instead runs into his wife Laurel, who eventually tells her where to find her husband. He's at a show with his new girlfriend, and when she excuses herself to go poo or something, Catwoman sidles up, scratches him on the face, and then gets chased by the cops. She runs backstage where she's confronted by Tom. They fight while exchanging stupid small talk between wrestling moves.
Now we're playing.
You're playing, I'm at work.
Seems like you love your job.
She licks his cheek, then she escapes. Back at the company, George and Laurel are arguing when George slaps her to show everyone that Beau-line has another side effect: superpowers. Then it's time for another date with Tom where Patience gobbles sushi and gets scared by the rain before the two get it on. When Tom gets up for a drink, he finds one of Catwoman's claws on the floor and spots some lipstick on a glass. She awakes to find him gone and receives a phone call from Laurel, who says she has evidence that George is covering up Beau-line's toxicity. Over at the station, the police use their high-tech computers to match Catwoman's lip print on Tom's cheek to the lip print on the glass from Patience's apartment. Then Catwoman meets up with Laurel at her mansion to discuss the evidence against George, only to find that George is dead and Laurel is setting her up for the murder. With the police on the way, she changes clothes and heads back to her apartment where Tom is waiting to arrest her. She's tossed in a cell, and because this is movie jail, that mysterious cat just walks right in. Inspired by how easily the cat did it, Patience decides to squeeze through the bars. Then she leaps out a window and steals a Jaguar. Right outside of a police station. All the guy has to do is tell the cops she's in a black Jaguar. With apologies to all you cat lovers out there, if she were Dogwoman, she'd be a lot smarter. With her husband dead, Laurel takes over the company and plans to move full speed ahead with the Beau-line deliveries. But Catwoman has different plans. Meanwhile, Tom decides to interview Laurel and gets her to confess, like, easily.
So this evidence, you'll make it disappear? Pin it on the other girl?
If that's what you want me to do.
And you? What do you want?
Oh, you just gave me what I want. You just told me it was you.
But she's not trying to get arrested, so she shoots him. Then, while she's monologuing, Catwoman shows up, uses her whip to snatch the gun away, and then her and Tom leave. Then Laurel puts a call out to her guards and we get a cat and mouse chase through the factory. Catwoman takes care of one of the guards while Tom knocks out the other. There's only 2 guards. That sets up the final showdown between Catwoman and Laurel. It's your pretty standard Hollywood fight scene where they jump, flip, kick, and spin while pausing every now and then to say something cool.
You're just a scared little girl playing dress up.
Of course, Catwoman comes out on top, kicking Laurel out a window where she falls to her death. As Catwoman and Tom look down at her dead carcass, he comes up with a great idea to clear her name.
And if Patience is back in her cell by tomorrow morning, it'll be awfully tough to prove that she was Catwoman.
Then she dumps him with a note, which is only like half a notch up from a breakup text. And so with her ability to gracefully walk across narrow objects, cough up hairballs, and lick her own butt, Catwoman heads off to her new life of crime-fighting adventure. And no one cares. Catwoman was the first English-language feature film by French director Pitof. It was also his last. That's not to say Catwoman was responsible for that, but let's be honest, it probably didn't help. Catwoman was a failure on nearly every front. It bombed at the box office, critics hated it, audiences hated it, and probably worst of all, comic book fans hated it. And you can't blame them. They straight up got duped. Not to get all fanboy on you guys, but Catwoman, like many of the characters in the Batman universe, including the Dark Knight himself, doesn't really have any superpowers. She's just really good at what she does, especially seducing Batman. The filmmakers likely knew this, which is why instead of Selina Kyle, the Catwoman from the comic books, they created a new character named Patience Phillips. So, like I said earlier, it's not really Catwoman, it's just a Catwoman. One of the best moments from Catwoman wasn't even in the movie. It was at that year's Golden Raspberry Awards when Halle Berry won for Worst Actress. She actually showed up to the ceremony in person to accept the award, bringing her Oscar for Best Actress on stage with her.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. I never in my life thought I would be up here.
And it's hard not to feel sorry for Halle Berry. I mean, she's a bona fide A-list talent. She was the first African-American woman to win the Oscar for Best Actress. So when you look at the accolades bestowed upon movies like Black Panther, Wonder Woman, and Captain Marvel for placing women and minorities at the center of big blockbuster superhero films, Halle Berry was a minority and a woman starring in a big superhero film 15 years ago. But unlike Black Panther and Wonder Woman, Catwoman sucked. So okay, Catwoman's a bad movie, but is it watchable? Not only is it unwatchable, it's unpleasant to watch. As soon as you press the play button, you're in for an hour and 45 minutes of boring action, unfunny comedy, unromantic romance, and unsuspenseful suspense. This movie doesn't do anything right. It's even bad at being bad. While so many bad movies will have you laughing at absurd dialogue, smacking your forehead at nonsensical plot twists, or dropping your jaw in disbelief at horrible special effects, Catwoman just kind of lays there as if it's testing you to see how long you can keep watching before turning it off. I'm not a war hero or a scientist on my way to curing cancer, but if I can prevent just one person from watching Catwoman, I will feel that I have contributed something important to society. Well, that's all I've got. Be sure to drop in next time when I take a look at The Avengers, the 1998 film with Uma Thurman. And as always, do us a solid. Subscribe.